So here's the very first step, which is cutting out the fabric using the pattern. We just traced it onto some heavy duty paper, and then we trace it onto the fabric or use that template to cut around it. But you gotta be careful. If your fabric is one-sided, then you have to cut them in pairs so that when you sew them together, the right sides, the good sides, can be facing outward. And then we're using this old white bed sheet, 100% cotton, for the inner liners.
Egyptian cotton. I'm just kidding.
What's the weave? How tight?
100%.
2,000 thread. So once you have your pieces all cut, you're going to need 4 pieces for one mask. You're going to use 2 for the outside liner, and then 2 for the inside liner, which we're using the white material. The first step is to sew a seam down the curve with the right side, good sides, facing towards each other. These 2 pieces would make the outside liner, and then the 2 white pieces would make the inside liner. But step 1 is to just put a single seam right down the curve, and then you're ready to put them together. Okay, so now I'm going to take these 2 liners and I'm going to sew them together. Before I do that, I took my scissors and I just kind of cleaned up any excess fabric to take out some of the bulk, so when I put them together they fit a little bit nicer. So now I'm at the step where I'm sewing the linings together. You got the inner lining, and there's 2 pieces to that, and then you've got the outer lining, which is also double layered, and you sew them with the right sides facing each other, which I found out in sewing terms means that the good side, the side that is the correct one or the right one, they should be facing each other, and then you just put a seam down the curve on the front, and so that's what I'm finishing off right here on my last outer lining. And so these masks are going to go together in a few minutes with the outer liner here and the inner liner there. I'll show you how those line up in just a minute. So here they are, the 2 linings, the outer one with the good side, the right side facing in, and then the inner lining with the right side or the good side facing out towards the good side of the outer lining. So now I've got the 2 linings together like this, and that curve down the middle, that seam, I'm going to put some clips on it so it holds both of them together, so that I can go and put a seam around the rest. And when I do this next seam, I'm going to leave a 2-inch gap down here, so that I can flip the whole thing right side out. Okay, so here I have the 2 liners together. They're clipped along the curved edge, and then I'm going to start sewing down here at the bottom, but be mindful that it looks like I'm just randomly starting in the middle, but I'm going to end it over here and leave that 2-inch gap so that I can flip this whole thing right side out. Okay, so I'm just finishing up this first all around stitch. You can see I started it here and then I went all the way around. It's kind of tough to get it through the middle where you've got the 2 seams meeting each other, and you can see my method of clipping it, not too successful in keeping it lined up, but that's okay. We'll trim all that off after I'm done with this stitch. And I'm done right here. I'm gonna just do a quick back stitch and leave this gap, and that's where I'm gonna flip the right sides out. So here we have the two liners sewn together, and I cleaned them up a little, cut off some of the bulk, because the next step is going to be using this gap here, this hole that I left, to flip it right side out, and then we'll take it to the ironing board. So here we are at the ironing board. I have flipped the mask. Both liners were right side in, and then I used my little 2-inch gap to flip it right side out. I've used my finger to poke the corners and the nose piece as much as I can, and then we're going to put it onto the round end of the board and get it nice and flat. So we're back from the ironing board, back at the sewing machine. I have my mask. I'm ready to sew in the nose wire. This is probably my favorite part of this mask, is that up here at the bridge of the nose, there's actually a little slot that you sew, and then you insert a small gauge wire. Somebody suggested that you could use paper clips, but I don't know if that would really be ideal. So this is just some small, like 20 gauge wire that I had laying around. I'm not sure, maybe you could use like pipe cleaners or something like that, but you can get creative, or you can skip this step, but I think it makes these masks really well fitting.
So here's the wire that I'm using. Like I said, it's just a 20 gauge steel wire. This one happens to be galvanized, which I don't think is critical, but these things are going to get washed, so maybe that'll be a good thing. And so I just cut lengths here, somewhere between like 2.5 to 3 inches long. I'm in the process of turning the tips back on themselves, so it doesn't poke.
The secret to this little nose piece is that I started over here from the edge. I did a 90-degree turn, and then I just followed the contour. And when I got over here, I did my back stitch without closing, without making the 90-degree turn. So I'm gonna do that after I insert the wire. All right, so here's my finished nose wire, and I'm gonna insert it through my flipping hole and then up into the bridge there. And then I'll put it back on the machine and do this little stitch here to close. I just closed off the hole. I inserted the wire, and then I sewed from the edge down maybe half an inch or so. My wire was a little bit longer than my first stitch, so I had to make the 90-degree turn and come back up and meet it there. But now that wire is enclosed. Now it's time to put the final stitch all the way around the border. The instructions I saw said you could try to get your stitch above your wire, but I just find that it's just a little too likely that I'm going to hit the wire with my needle. So I just avoid that, and I start my final stitch here where I left off, and then I just go all the way around, close up my little flipping hole, and then keep coming around all the way up. And then the last thing we're going to do is sew on the little side pockets for the elastic. Okay, so here I am. I went all the way around with my stitch, and now I'm folding in about an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch in towards the finished inner lining, and then I'm going to just finish this off real quick. A little one-handed sewing, and I'm going to do the same to the other side, and then I'm ready to put in the elastic. Favorite part of this project, sewing the elastic ear loops. And this one I'm going to make ear loops. You can alternately use more elastic and make bands that go all the way around your head, and that way you reduce the amount of stitches you have to do on the elastic, but trying to conserve the elastic we have. So I cut these to 9 inches in length approximately, 2 of them, and you'll just have to play around with the length that you think works best. This is the medium-sized mask, and there's also a small version and a large version, so you can adjust the amount of elastic as needed. I decided to simplify feeding the elastic through the little channels that we sewed on the edge. I took a wire and I bent the end of it, and I can just stick that right up into that channel, grab the elastic from the other side, and pull it right through. So it looks something like this. I got my wire fed through the channel, and I grabbed the elastic by one end, and I'm gonna fish it through. Okay, so the elastic has been fed through both channels. All you gotta do is take it to the machine, sew it into a loop, and And then this mask is ready to go. Okay, so the elastic's now been sewn into a band. As you can see, it's kind of a mess, the stitching there. But what I did was I widened the stitch pattern so that I could grab more of the elastic with each stitch. And it doesn't really matter what it looks like as long as it holds together, because it's going to be hidden inside it. And here we go. We got a finished mask. Goes around the ear and fits really nicely. I got my wire in the nose here so I can bend it down and adjust it. I'm wearing glasses and my glasses won't be fogging up, and it fits pretty well. So there you go. Good luck.